Thanks, Kathy. I would just say let's focus on healthcare. I really respect the tens of thousands of people who took the time to write me, email me, contact me, to call our office, to let me know their views, both pro and con on the bill. At the end of the day, the vast majority of the 35,000 people who contacted me were opposed to the bill, and that was a major influence in my decision to oppose the bill and to vote no. And to me, that's grassroots democracy the way it should be. Everyday citizens getting engaged, being involved, having their voice heard, and I hope we can see that kind of involvement in other issues. If I had one hope for our country on the political process, it would be that we could get beyond some of this mindless partisanship that we're seeing in Washington and across the country today. I think it's counterproductive. I don't think it's good for the country. And I drive by Arlington National Cemetery every morning when Congress is in session, and I purposely exit on the George Washington Parkway so I can look over my left shoulder and see Arlington Cemetery and remind myself that these great Americans served our country and many died for our country, so that in a democracy we can have the freedom to agree and disagree with others and yet still be respectful. And I'm concerned about the level of vitriol that I see on talk shows from the far right and the far left, and the vitriol I see in the Congress. That's not the best way for democracy to work. So I hope as we go forward, we can all together, members of Congress and others, agree that we honor the principles of our Constitution and Founding Fathers by standing up and being passionate about our principled positions on issues, but being respectful about others who disagree with us. Having debate in America is not unpatriotic. It's the best form of patriotism. And we should be able to participate in that debate without demonizing those who think differently.
Do you feel that we've reached a new level of disrespect? Have you ever seen anything like what has been happening lately?
It's the worst I've seen in my time in public service, and I hope we can turn the clock back to a better day. I can say we have to change that one person at a time, and on my Veterans Affairs and VA Appropriations Committee, I reach out to Republicans from day one and seek their input. And if you'll check the votes on my bills, they are usually passed by 430 to 4. 430 in favor of it and only 4 opposed. Because I do want to pass those bills on a bipartisan basis, that supporting veterans and our military should not be a partisan issue. And I just wish we could take that approach and apply that to other areas of the government as well. I will say that politics has always been a rough and tumble business in this country. Sometimes we mythify our founding fathers, and they're incredibly brilliant, set up an unbelievable constitutional form of government that works better than any democracy in the world. But history will show that Mr. Jefferson and Mr. Adams said things about each other in the presidential race of 1800 that you could not print in the Hood County News today without being sued.
This is a question from Debbie here,
Okay.
Debbie Snyder. She covers lake issues
Right.
here. As the Lake Granbury Watershed Protection Plan stakeholders continue working toward their recommendations, it is becoming more evident that a central wastewater system would help prevent certain pollutants from entering the lake. Will there be any EPA grant money available if and when this recommendation is made?
If it's a recommendation that's made and supported by the local community, I will do everything I can to help see that we're a partner in funding that process. I have already, through the congressional appropriations process, helped partner in this effort, and we put, I believe, several $1 million into helping the Granbury area develop a plan to protect the water quality at Lake Granbury. And it's crucial to every single person in this community, whether they live on the lake or not. It's such an unbelievably wonderful asset to the community. We have to protect it. And I worked very hard over the last several years funding research to help us develop the plan, help us learn more about the golden algae problem. And I've learned through my experiences in Waco that it's far better to get out ahead of the curve and protect the quality of water at a lake than it is to let it get compromised and then try to play a catch-up game. So it's been one of my highest priorities in supporting the protection of Lake Granbury. Has been one of my highest priorities in the 5 years that I've had the privilege of representing Hood County. My role, I will never come to Granbury or Hood County and say this is what our community should do here. I always want to be a partner when the community comes to me and says we need help on these public infrastructure investments, and that's why I worked with the community to provide some seed money for the improvements along 377. It's why I provided some seed money to help develop a new airport so that we could get more business development in the area and take off some of the pressure on homeowner property taxes. And it's why I've made perhaps my highest priority locally. It's been my effort to work to provide research funding to develop a long-term plan to protect the quality of water at Lake Waco. At Lake Granbury. I start to say Lake Waco because we've had similar challenges at Lake Waco over the years, and that's why I think we really need to stay ahead of the game here.
Chet, back to healthcare. We still don't know what's in the bill. When and how are we supposed to learn this?
Jerry, it's one of my many reasons for voting no on the bill. We should have taken a 2,000-page bill and cut 1,500 pages out of it, simplified it, made it less expensive, focused around 4 or 5 key points that most Americans would support it. Ideas such as tax credits for small businesses to provide health insurance for their employees, helping people not be penalized for the fact their child or their spouse or loved one has a pre-existing health care condition. I really think we could have put together a bill that 75% of Americans would have enthusiastically supported, and I'm disappointed that wasn't what happened. It will take months and even years to figure out the full implications of this bill because it is so complicated, and it'll take years to put in place the regulations to implement it. What I'm going to try to do over the next several months is honestly answer questions throughout our district, and that's why we had a telephone town hall meeting last night with over 22,000 people participating. Whether someone supported or opposed the bill, they have a right to know how it will affect them and their family as an individual without health insurance, as a small business. So we're going to reach out every way we possibly can to get the facts on the table, because no matter how conscientious one was, it was hard to separate the wheat from the chaff, figure out what was true and what was myth about what was in this bill. What I have found is that the Kaiser Family Foundation website is one of the very best that tries to tell it like it is, not color this bill pro or con, just say factually this is what's in the bill. And so for those who really want to dig into the details of the bill without the biases of those who were writing the bill or those opposed to the bill, I would recommend they look at the Kaiser Family Foundation website. I've used that website myself because you can read every word of the bill and still not understand many parts of it because it's written in legal language, and it says repeal section 138, replace it with section 127 of the Medicare Act of 1965, and so on and so forth. So I think some of these third-party sources is a good way to get good information on it.